How are you? Yeah, good to see you. Thanks for coming. Yeah. So what are we doing today? Second live session. We got a lot to do in a short period of time, but let me do this right now. Good hello, wherever you are, wherever you're joining us, in your jammas, at home on a Sunday morning. This is Leadership Bootcamp, the Leadership at All Levels archive for the second live session, Agent of Change. All right, with all that said, let's begin. Come on in. There's a seat. Look, it's already turned for you. Perfect. Wonderful. Thank you. Can one of you nice ladies close that door back there, please? 3 weeks ago, we met in the theater, and we began the process of this learning enterprise. And we threw a lot of information at you in a short period of time, hour and 40 minutes or so. And then for 3 weeks, the last 3 weeks, we've tried to unpack that information. Let me caution you on a couple of things, first of all. If, like we just identified, Gail and I just identified, that one of your fellow participants is not getting everything, say something early, because this other participant has been getting everything, but there's a technical glitch somewhere along the line. So, oh, you're a good man. You're a good man. Thank you, sir, very much. No problem. Everybody say hi to Louis. Hi. So Louis is in charge of all the convention, not convention, but the catering facilities and programs. So he makes sure you get everything set up. He makes sure you've got everything. So, and he's done a great job last year, and his staff did a great job, and they'll do a great job for this year. Will you give him a big round of applause for his help? But thank you, my friend. He came in the other day, he came in on his time off to make sure we were good to go, so I appreciated that. So if there's something not happening, if on Tuesday morning you haven't gotten an email and everybody else has got an email, then you know something's wrong. So then send me a note and say, Ian, something's wrong, so that we can then fix it. So like in this case of these two gentlemen, nobody communicated to them that they just told them you got to be here. And so they showed up because they would do what they told. But then the next step of that is, I don't have anything to write with. Everyone else got a book. I don't have a book. Well, it's not their fault, but you got to say something. So that's a lesson to all of us. As leaders, when we see something out of place, we raise our hand and say, this is out of place, or this doesn't make sense. That's just being responsible. If something's out of place that we have said is going to happen and it's not happening, tell me, so that I can track back and figure out why is it not happening, so that we can fix it. It's a pretty sound system, and if it's not happening, something's broken. But I can guarantee you the people on this end aren't idiots. We didn't just all of a sudden forget to send you an email. If it didn't go to you, it's because something's broken. So please, in interest of all of our time, to ensure that it's productive for you and for us, if something's out of place, raise your hand by either sending me an email, making a phone call, posting it in the forum, whatever. So we got together 3 weeks ago. We introduced some information, and then for 3 weeks after, the last 3 weeks, we've tried to unpack that. Somebody tell me something you took away from the last 3 weeks. Not just from our time together, but something you took away from the last 3 weeks. Something that came up in the last 3 weeks, either via email, or if you had an opportunity to participate in the coaching session, or you able to watch the archive, whatever. Somebody tell me something that came out of the last 3 weeks for you personally. Ready, set, go.
Your shoes are nicer.
My shoes are nicer than last time?
Yeah, you made a comment about your shoes.
Oh yeah, my shoes are very nice. That's right. All right, somebody else, yes.
Kind of give you some clarity of why you think the way you think.
Okay, so the exercise, maybe the leadership history survey or something else, maybe the 3 questions you had to ask, whatever, helped you better understand how you got to be who you are. All right, somebody else.
Are you 9 or are you 10?
Are you 9 or are you 10? How many of you know what he's talking about, 9 or 10? Question number 9, question number 10. One of the things that I ask you to do is take that leadership history survey. Now, I have to be clear with all of you. If you think just coming here 5 times face-to-face is the depth and breadth of the program, then you might as well go back to your supervisor and say, I don't want to do this. Because it isn't just being 5 times face-to-face. There's stuff to do in between. And the exercises are not trite. In other words, they're not just to waste your time. They're for purpose and reason. So for those of you that did the leadership history survey, which I understand it's been a little bit of a short, it isn't that long of a time that I gave you to do it. But last Monday, I sent you an email. I said, answer these 12 questions. And as a part of that, I said question number 9 is important. Who was your best boss and why? How many of you know what I'm talking about? And then I challenged you. Now, you may not have been able to take me up on the challenge because I only challenged you this on Thursday. So you may not have been able to complete the task. But those of you that took the challenge and were able to complete the task, did anybody contact their best boss? All right? Anybody willing to share how that went? Hands go down. Hands went up, and then hands went right back down. Hasn't replied yet. Okay. Anybody that contacted their best boss willing to share how it went? Go ahead. Tell everybody your name.
My name is Katrin Lu, and I'm from Community Services. I contacted my best boss. She's in Toronto. She was a lawyer I worked for.
Toronto?
In Toronto, yeah.
Called her?
Toronto, Ontario.
Yeah.
She was a lawyer, and I worked for her for 4 years. She encouraged me to go back to university and take my degree. We just reminiscent. It was really emotional talking to her.
So you called her.
I called her and we connected,
And did you tell her why you were calling?
I called her. I told her about the program. She was really excited about it. She said, "Oh, that's a good thing to do."
And
Said, part of working for her helped me to grow to be what I am today, and she was really emotional about it.
and so you told her that she was a reason, or one of the reasons you've become who you are, and then she was emotional on the other end of the phone.
Emotional on the other end, and it was like emotional for both of us, because I remember that's when I moved to Canada. I was just in my early 20s, and just to have that encouragement, and so we both learned from each other. And she's pursuing her PhD, so I learned something from her too. So
Very good.
that's encouraging.
Very good. All right, anybody else that contacted their best boss? Now, I know it's only been a short period of time, so you may not have been able to. More of you than 0 raised your hands. So why are you not willing to share? Don't be fraidy cats, as my daughter would say. Don't be a fraidy cat. Come on, somebody share. Did you call?
Yes, I did. Well, I emailed it.
You
I
emailed.
had told her before.
Okay. And how did and what was the response? She hasn't responded yet. Why am I asking you to do this? So for those of you who don't know, question number 9 on the Leadership History Survey is, who was your best boss and why were they so great? And then I challenged you to contact that person and tell them. What's the point of the exercise? Come on in, guys. Come on in. There's room in the front or way in the back. But probably the front is better. But okay, sit in the back. That's fine with me. I don't care. How are you, nice lady? Here you are, right here. This gentleman is happy to slide over a little bit. Well, he went like this.
And this is for you.
Oh, thank you very much. From Ruby, who was right outside. Okay, so what's the point of the exercise? Why did I ask you to contact your best boss? What's the point?
I think to kind of demonstrate what kind of leader you want to be by reflecting on
Ooh, good, Ashley. Very well done. So Ashley is keen to point out that I'm trying to teach you a couple of lessons. The first lesson I'm trying to teach you is the lesson called gratitude. How many of you know leaders that you have been led by that don't acknowledge or appreciate other people's contribution to their success? Raise your hand if you've ever dealt with a leader like that. All of us have. So the first thing I'm trying to teach you is to remind you that you didn't get to be the person you are on your own. That you don't bootstrap yourself. That there is no such thing as a self-made person. Well, wait a minute. I see all the big stars and all the millionaires, they're self-made. Really? Even if somebody took a bottle of formula and stuck it in their mouth when they were, 5 weeks old, somebody helped you along the way. I think all of us are fed up with leaders who think they do it all on their own. So by asking the question, I'm forcing you to recognize who those people are that helped you, and then forcing you to show gratitude, because we'd all like to be led by people who show gratitude. Secondly, the other point of it, in my opinion, is to actually lighten somebody's burden. You see, somebody who is a leader, when they recognize an opportunity to make someone's life a little bit better, they take the opportunity. So all of you, I think, would agree that if you did what this nice lady did, you might have the same kind of experience. At minimum, you're going to make someone do this. Oh, thanks. How many of you agree with me? At minimum, you're going to have that. So in today's day and age, when people's lives are crappy, when people are going through nonsense every day, when people are having difficult with their families, or frankly, you turn on CBC News and the next thing you know, bombs are going off at a race, where people are trying to reach their dreams and go for a marathon and then people's legs are being blown off. In today's society where you got that kind of crap going on and you have a chance to make someone smile and you choose not to, I would question you as a person. Really, I mean that sincerely. If you're so caught up in life that you can't let another human being know that they made your life better, I would question you as a person. And that's from a street kid. You and I can go out in the parking lot and we'll have a little rumble. But I would just question you as a person, that you couldn't lighten someone's burden. So leaders say to themselves, well, I can make Leanne's life a little bit better. Let me go ahead and do that. I'll make that phone call. I'll send that email. And even if they never respond, does that matter? It doesn't matter one bit. Come on in, guys. There's a seat here. There's a seat there. Hurry, though. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Come on. And then third, who can guess, and this takes a little bit of a mental leap. This means you're thinking the exercise all the way through. Who can guess the real reason for doing it? All of those are reasons, but what's the deep reason for doing it? What's the deep reason for making you identify a 9, best boss, and a 10, worst boss? Why? What's the real depth of it? So you know what kind of leader you want to be? The contrast. What not to do. How about this? Because you're somebody's 9 or 10. You're somebody's 9 or 10. Well, no, I'm not. I'm in between. Well, then you might as well be 10. But I'm not a leader. Hey, we're all, at some level or another, we're all making an impact in people's lives. So what's your name, ma'am? Lori. So Lori, in your life, how many people would you say you have connection to in a meaningful way? Meaningful connection, both work and personal. 10, 15, 20?
20.
Okay, 20. Would you all agree with me she has an opportunity to influence 20 lives? For good or bad? How many of you know somebody in your life that has negatively influenced, has negatively impacted you, and their influence, the residue of their influence still sticks with you today? A word that they said, a comment that they made, a lie that they told, an action that they took. And they are sitting in a meeting somewhere and they don't even know who the hell you are. You're not on their mind whatsoever. And yet, the thing that they said, the thing that they did, the action that they took, still, the residue of it still sticks today. Am I right or wrong? So question number 9 and 10 are really about this. The impact you're making in people's lives, and which one are you going to be? You don't have to have a title to be a leader. She's going to be a leader. She got 20 lives that she directly impacts. And if she can bring those lives value more times than not, would you agree with me she's been a leader? Now, the tough part for some of you in the room is you're thinking to yourself, what the hell does this have to do with work? How many of you would want to work with a person that's mindful of the impact that they're having on those around them? Raise your hand if that's the kind of work environment you'd like to be in. Absolutely. So it's about you saying to yourself, I'm not a victim. I'm not a robot. I just don't go through the motions of life. I have more talent, I have more ability, and I have more to offer life than that. And so whether I just have influence over 1, 2, 3 people, then these 4 people are going to get the best that I have to offer them because I can be their number 9. And then I want to be that kind of a person in life. So hopefully one of the things you got out of the first 3 weeks is some questioning. Am I just going through the motions of life, or am I taking what I have and using it for the betterment of others? Am I just a robot who's trading time for money, or am I taking the opportunity that I've been given and using it to improve someone else, even if the only someone else is the 4 cubicles next to me or the 4 guys on my crew? Yeah, Ian, the people that need to be here are our bosses. Our bosses need to hear this. Just because your boss is an ass doesn't allow you to be an ass. How many of you say that's true? Not that your boss is an ass. This is on film. Be very careful. Don't raise your hand to your boss is an ass. Yes.
What would you recommend then for dealing with people who are a bit
Shh.
what would you recommend then for dealing with people who are a bit negative, kind of suck you in?
We will talk about that today.
Okay, because you give, but you can only give so much, and then otherwise you're done.
Well,
Really.
conceptually, now I'm going to make a response conceptually. Conceptually, Mother Teresa never stopped giving. Conceptually, the lady at the retirement home that watches people die every day, she keeps giving every day. Conceptually, the mother of the special needs child never stops giving. So you could say idealistically, you never stop giving. Because just like Helen, if the person she sent an email to never responds, that's on her. So you could say altruistically that I'm always going to give because that's the person I am, no matter what the response is. Practically, right. Practically, most people don't get to that place. But I would tell you that if you could get to that place, it's a very freeing place. Because now my self-worth is not directly linked to other people's response. So some people that I know, some people that all of you know, make a conscious decision that they're going to be a certain way as a person. And how people respond to that, negative, positive, whatever, they don't care. They just say, I'm going to be a kind and generous person to all around me, and no matter how people respond to that, I'm just going to be a kind, generous person. But I will say that's tough. I can't do that. I'm not there yet.
So kindly and generous to say, I've listened to you already for half an hour, and now I have to get my work done. I can't, you know what I mean? Like,
Telling someone that now's not the appropriate time for us to have the personal discussion is different than giving of myself, right? Because that's just prioritizing. And frankly, that specific example we'll talk about in the coming weeks. Because part of being a leader, and this is important for all of us, part of being a leader within a workplace is being able to clarify for people when it's time to work and when it's time to have personal conversations. But you can be a loving, caring person and love them enough to say, you have a lot of problems in your life and I want to hear them, but one of the problems you don't need is getting fired. So let's make sure that we're all working. Right? I love you and I want to hear about all the problems, but your problems are going to multiply if you get fired. So how about let's get to work? Right? Could you say that?
I could say that.
Yeah, and be loving about it.
Sure.
Of course.
Give me a hug now. Get away.
Hey, I love you, but now's not the time to have this chat. And sometimes they'll love us more for saying that. But that's a whole nother conversation. So my point is this. Question number 9 is not just about you feeling good and making another person feel good, although that is important. Question number 9 and question number 10 are really about, do you see yourself as someone's 9 and do you see yourself as someone's 10? And whether you see yourself or not, you are. Because even if all you are is an inconsequential person that they bumped into for a couple of years, then you might as well be number 10. Let's be difference makers. Let's be world changers. Let's be people that can make a significant impact. And a lot of times people, when I say that, look at me and say, well, that's easy for you. What, it's easy for the illiterate? I'm illiterate. Well, it's easy for the guy with the connections. I lived on a street and ate out of a garbage can. So if the guy who's illiterate that ate out of a garbage can make a difference, large and small, then people who are smarter than me, more connected than me, have more than I had at the time, and the like, could do more, right? What kind of an environment do we want to have, and what kind of an environment do we want to create? So you have the opportunity to create something. Anybody else, something that you took away from the first 3 weeks? Anybody else? Something you took away from the first 3 weeks, and then we'll jump into the next 3 weeks. Anything that you took away, or that you wanted to share, or a question that you had? Okay. So now what we're going to do today is launch into the next 3 weeks. The first competency. And remember, a competency is a complex set of skills, attitudes, and attributes that make you good at a thing. We're not talking about your vocational job. If you drive a plow, we're not talking about driving a plow. If you are in administration, we're not talking about how to use Microsoft Excel. We're not talking about your Vocational competency, we're talking about you being able to lead, whether you have a title or not. So the first vocational competence, or the first leadership competency, I call being an agent of change. So by now, you should have taken that leadership history survey. You should have looked back. How did I, as Leanne said, how did I become who I am? Then I gave you a process for changing, right? Gave you a process for changing. Because over the next 15 weeks, we're going to introduce some new approaches that you could use to be more effective at you. Be more effective. But you got to have some way to cross that gap between what you are and what you could be. So that's that change continuum. In 3 weeks' time, the next time we get together, I'm going to start asking you to make a commitment. Remember, how many of you remember I'm going to ask you to make a commitment? What's your name, nice lady? Yes, you right here. Yes. What is it? Brenda. So in 3 weeks' time, I'm going to ask Brenda and the rest of you, Brenda, what are you going to get better at? And then Brenda is either going to write it down and send it to me, or she's going to fill out a form online and send it to me. And then between Brenda and I, her and I will have a personal agreement of what she's going to get better at in the last 9 weeks of the program. So that all of us pick out something and get better. Well, I don't want to pick anything out. Well, then you're going to have to tell me that, either face-to-face on the phone. Because if I don't get something from you, I'm going to pester you. First, I'll pester you with an email. Hey, Miss Williams, hey, holla. I need you to fill out the form. Pick out one thing. She ignores me. Then it'll be another email, not as gentle. Hey, I need you to fill out the form. And then either I'll see her here or I'll call her on the phone. Hey, Miss Williams, I don't have your one thing. What's going on? Because all of us are going to pick out one thing and be better at it. And whether that's in your personal life or whether that's in your work life or whatever, that's reasonable. Because otherwise this would be a waste of time. How many of you agree? So that by the time we get to the end, 100 of you and 60, so 160 people at least can say we picked out one thing and got better at it, or at least we tried. So before we can do that, though, we've got to add a piece. And that piece we're going to talk about the next 3 weeks. I call it being an agent of change. Do you know how to change something? You don't have a title, but you can still change things. You may not have any authority, but you can still change things. How do I know that that's possible? How many of you know somebody in your work experience that had no title, that had no real authority, but was ruling the group? How many of you know somebody like that? And usually, is that positive or negative? Usually negative, isn't it? How many of you know somebody that we all walk around on eggshells? Somebody that if they're in a bad mood, we're all in a bad mood. Somebody, if they are a witch, forgive me ladies, if they're a witch or they're a jerk, not you or you're not a jerk, but if they're a witch or a jerk, we all walk around on eggshells. Does somebody know that? Raise your hand if you know somebody like that. Raise your hand if you are that. No, don't do that. That is a great example of what? Influence. So in your workplace, you have all these different people. You got all kinds of different people in your workplace. And then you got a couple of people that for whatever reason, they got a whole bunch of influence. And somehow they can get all these other people to do stuff. And they don't even have a title. They can get all these other people worked up about something. And they can create a stir. How many of you know somebody like that? Somehow, without a title, they can actually get all these people to do something together. Hey, everybody, I don't like this new thing that's happening. Yeah, we don't like it either. Hey, let's all dig our heels in the ground and act like we're pissed off about it. Yeah, that's a good idea. And the next thing you know, this one person with all kinds of influence but no authority has got everybody doing something. Am I right or wrong? So tell me you can't be a leader without a title. Look at me with a straight face and say you can't be a leader without a title. It happens every day. Usually, though, it's not happening in a what kind of form? A positive form. So couldn't we take the same principles and apply them to doing something positive? I think you can. And so that's what we're going to talk about for the next 3 weeks. How do you become a person of influence that can influence, not just influence your peers, but influence those around you? It's called managing your boss. How can you influence the dynamic that you're in every day? Leaders do that, with or without a title. I call it being an agent of change. Now, here's the craziest thing of all of this. The craziest thing of all of this, where's my handouts? Oh, yeah. The craziest thing of all of this is I'm counting on you to do so. So how many ever years ago, when life was good to me, and we had more than we could have ever hoped to have, I had a choice. I can just relax, or I can do something with what's been given to me. And we just work, my wife and I work off this premise that to whom much is given, much is required. So we've been given much, much is required of us. And when we started to sit down and look at communities, and we started to look at cities, and we started to look at regions, and we started to look at where people live, we started to get philanthropically involved. I guarantee you, if any of you have come from someplace else in Canada, then we've donated to somewhere near you. Because we've given away 160 playgrounds across Canada, and there's no Canadian that's more than 250 kilometers away from where we've donated. So I know that you came, maybe even your town that you came from. Now, why did we do that? We did that because to whom much is given, much is required. But in that process, I learned something. And the thing that I learned was that some of our efforts were futile. In other words, they weren't going to make a difference anyways. And as I said to you last time, what I came to the conclusion of was the people that really make the difference on a daily basis is all of you. Collectively, municipal employees touch every citizen in the country from cradle to grave. Collectively. Now, you might not, young lady. You might not touch every citizen from cradle to grave. But all of these people collectively touch every citizen from cradle to grave. They drive on your roads. They access your services. You touch collectively every citizen from cradle to grave. And that's when I said to myself, wait a minute. We got to be talking to these people. They're the difference makers. They're the people that build the great city, maintain the great city, administer the great city, and create the places we want to live. That's why the quote up there is important. There is no doubt we are in changing times. Worn out slogans, tired old approaches won't take on the challenges of your community or any other community. Jingleistic solutions, what's that? That solution that's boiled down into some simple little jingle. Well, that doesn't solve problems. Won't solve the problems of our communities either. These challenges will only be solved by people such as you. So that's what I came up with. I came up with you're the answer. Now, you might say, you're a fool. I don't know. I don't know what I am, but I believe you're the answer. Because when you are doing what you can do well, cities are better. When you're doing what you do poorly, cities aren't so good. Now, trust me, I realize that you're not in control. I realize that 85% of most workplace challenges come from poor management. And I've told your leaders that. But there is a responsibility that you, as line employees, bear. And that responsibility is about you trying to be the best that you can be. Committed professionals who understand that they may not be able to handle the whole big bad world, but believe they can handle their little corner of it is the key. What's your name? So if he can handle, where do you work? I know, but what do you do?
Planning.
So if he can handle his little corner of planning, and what do you do?
Tech with UGS.
What do you physically do every day?
Work.
No, but what do you do?
Technical work.
Okay? And what do you do, big fella?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm a laborer.
Okay? So he's a laborer. He's a planner. You are a? Receptionist. So receptionist, laborer, works in tech, planner. The four of them doing the job to the best of their ability, is that a good or bad for the citizens of the community? It's good. Are they going to be able to solve it all by themselves? No. So, what's your first name, sir?
What? Trevor.
Trevor. So Trevor, being a great laborer, is not going to solve global warming. Trevor, being a great laborer, is not going to solve the drug problem in Fort McMurray, if there is one. I'm not saying there is one. Oh, not saying that. Not saying that. I'm just saying, but I'm not saying that. Is that going to solve the whole big bad world problems? No. But Trevor handling his little corner of it all, combined with all of you handling your little corner of it all, makes sure that we handle it all. So my bet's on you, as crazy as that sounds. and thousands of others like you across the country. So what does that mean? That means you got to know how to change things. That means you got to know how to take this influence dynamic and influence for the positive. That means those people that are influencing for the negative, you've got to be able to do something to counterbalance that. Because if I can get you to be a person of influence in a positive way, then those people that are right on the fence, you'll pull them with you. Because the person who's influencing negative, they'll pull, if there's no other force to counterbalance them, we'll pull them negative. And that's bad for citizens. Does this equation make sense? I didn't say that it was made, it makes sense like, I can understand how it might not make sense of, you look at it all and go, that'll never work. But I've seen it work over and over and over again. But you've got to know how to change things. So, that's what we're going to talk about for the next 3 weeks. How do you change something? By building a trusting relationship to act as a catalyst for change. So the agent of change, let me define it. The agent of change understands, demonstrates, and exerts influence by building trusting relationships to act as a catalyst for change. So how do I change things? By lying about people? No. How do I change things? By stabbing people in the back? No. How do I change things? By intimidating and yelling at people? No. I change things by building a trusting relationship with Jim. That trusting relationship I use to influence the dynamic. Just like the person who's doing it negatively does the same. The key is, how do I do that? So turn to this page right here. You don't have this page, but I'll give it to you in a second. Fact is, why don't you pick up your chair and go down there and you guys can share the handout. Here. Did I already give you the other one? So here's the one that he has. And then you guys will have to share this one. So this one he already has. Shh. This one he already has. And then you guys will share this one. Okay? Fair enough? Thank you very much. Okay. So, go to that sheet. From now on, every time we get together, we'll take a self-survey. The point of the self-survey is it helps you understand where you line up to this competency. So, understands, demonstrates, and exerts influence to act as a catalyst for positive change. Okay, that's great, Ian, but how do I know if I'm doing that or not? This little self-survey. Also, all of you in the room only have so much time to learn during a 3-week period. You might have an hour. You might have 2 hours total. That's why I keep saying to you, just give me 15 minutes a day. Just 15 minutes a day is all I'm asking for. So you got to be able to focus your energy on learning. So obviously, if you circle 1 in a category, you might want to pay attention when we're talking about that. And if you circle 10 in a category, okay. During the 3 weeks, you might only have 4 hours. So you got to know where to focus that 4 hours. This helps you proactively know what you're trying to listen for in the 3-week period. Does that make sense to everyone? So we're going to take this self-survey real quick, okay? All you're going to do is this. You're going to read the sentence, and if you're a 1, circle 1. If you're a 10, I do it all the time, circle 10. If you're somewhere in between, circle that. No cheating. Don't look at other people's papers. Okay, I'm going to read them randomly. Do you have a handout? You do? Do you have a pen? That's what I said. Do you have a handout? You're killing me, brother. Does anybody have an extra? You don't have a handout either? You guys are freaking kidding me. Okay, look at somebody else's. You'll have to take the survey later, and you owe me a toonie, you owe me a toonie, and you owe me a toonie, because all 3 of you were not here last. You guys were here last time, weren't you? You weren't here last time? I remember you.
You remember me from the playground?
Oh, the playground! Oh, that's right. Okay, so, that's right. I knew I remembered you from something. Shane, right? Shane. Now I remember Shane DeRosa. I know Shane. My man's going to Ghana to help us put in a playground, right? I hope so too. Okay, here's the drill. So the other 2 guys, though, you owe me a toonie.
Oh, I got one here.
Did she give you hers? You owe her a toonie. All right, here, take this. Here, take that. All right, thank you. Okay, here we go. Start the survey. Ready, set, go. When you're done, look up at me. When you're done, look up at me. Don't you have yours?
No, I wasn't here last week. And I never seen an email for this one.
Okay, so before you leave, we got to find out why.
Yeah.
But you got this one, right?
This is the first one.
But you didn't get the second week's email.
When I looked through, I couldn't see the...
Okay, so we'll find it. We'll find out what happened. Okay, go through quickly. Once you get done, look up at me. That way I know you're done. Always remember, if you don't have the handout, you can always go into the learning portal to print it off. If you don't have it, you can always go into the learning portal to print it off. Yes, sir.
I wasn't there last week either.
But you have the handout sitting in front of you.
Well, I don't have a pen.
Well, that's your own fault, brother. Somebody give this guy a pen. Man, it's like dealing with 4-year-olds. Give my man a pen. Don't ever come to a learning opportunity without something to write with. Here, catch. Oh, you got it? There you go. Coming back at you. Oh, my goodness. Okay. So you're either 10 or you're 1 or you're something in between. 10 or 1, something in between. 10 or 1 or something in between. Okay, the majority of your eyes are up at me, so that tells me that most people are done. Now, the key is, the next 3 weeks, I got to try to teach you these skills. I got to try to teach you some skills. So, to begin that process, what does it take to build trust? If this negative person, there's some way that this negative person is able to influence all these people. Somehow, they're able to do it. Well, in the past, it might be because this negative person, these people were afraid of the negative person. In the past, it might be because this negative person had some kind of control. They could screw up their schedule. They were friends with the boss. Something made these people think that they had some power or control. So the way that I change that dynamic, in my opinion, is to take into consideration what's going on today. To me, the only way to influence others in a meaningful way is to have these people trust you. If your boss trusts you, would you agree with me you have some opportunity to provide some influence on them, yes or no? If your peer trusts you, do you have an opportunity to influence them, yes or no? Think about this. There was a time a while back that if you wanted to take a trip, you wanted to take a trip to Cuba, you wanted to take a trip to Mexico, you wanted to take a trip to wherever, you wanted to go to Disney, whatever, you would call an expert on the phone, a travel agent, and you would ask that expert, hey expert, where should I go? And that expert would tell you, yes or no, am I right or wrong? Today, do you call a travel agent to get feedback on where you should go? Where do you go? Listen, this is really important. As leaders today, we talk about the context that we operate in. I go to TripAdvisor, and I am influenced by a bunch of people that I trust, even though the people that are putting those stars or smiley faces may be slobs who live in filth every day and walk into a hotel and go, this is beautiful in comparison to where I live. And then you get there and you're like, this is filth. So I'm amazed that you and I will listen to regular people more than we'll listen to experts. Why? Because we trust TripAdvisor. Now stop and think about that. We don't trust an expert anymore, the travel agent who's been trained, who goes to the places, who evaluates them, who's in the industry. We don't listen to them anymore. We listen to each other more. All of a sudden, you can affect change from the middle. Is this making sense to anybody? It's all about influence and trust now. In the past, all the leadership seminars said this, because this used to be the hierarchy of leadership, a triangle. The bosses were at the top, the people were at the bottom, and poop flew downhill. How many of you know what I'm talking about? Then they came up with this leadership philosophy that said, oh no, turn that upside down. Management has to be more supportive. Management has to take care of employees. And in practicality, nothing really changed. Today, here's the reality of today. The reality of today is you don't care about somebody's title. I didn't say you wouldn't come to work. You'll come to work. You got mortgage to pay. You got bills to pay. You'll come to work. But you won't give your all to something just because someone has a title. Today, if I want to lead people, the world has flattened. The world's flat, attitudinally. You are influenced by how much you trust someone. So, the influence that another human being has on your life is 100% based on how much you trust them. And whether it's something like TripAdvisor or where you go to eat. Whether it's something like the purchase of a new smartphone that you read about in a blog or in a forum, or the workplace. It's all about this. By show of hands, how many of you would agree? Which means that for the first time in the history of mankind, nobody can influence change. Someone who doesn't have a title, someone who doesn't have money, someone who doesn't have position, someone who doesn't have authority can actually influence change if they can get enough people to trust them. Usually that happens in the negative, but I bet you could make it happen in the positive, and I know that you can. I've seen it thousands upon thousands of times. So then how do I build trust? Let's go into that. So step number one. So go to this page right here. It says trust comes from. So the agent of change gets this. The agent of change understands this change and says to themselves, the agent of change says to themselves, okay, if it's all about trust, how do I build trust? Now, in the past, where are you from, Leanne? Where are you from?
Here.
Port McMurray proper?
No.
Okay, where are you from?
Vancouver Island.
Okay, Vancouver Island. In the past, 100 years ago on Vancouver Island, we all grew up together. We probably married each other's relatives. We all knew each other. And our frame of reference, our worldview was probably quite similar because we all generationally grew up in that area. Does that make sense? And so there was deeper trust. Where are you from?
Here.
Born in Fort McMurray. Mm-hmm. Where are you from?
Hawke's Bay, Newfoundland.
What part?
Hawke's Bay.
Hawke's Bay, Newfoundland. So he's from Newfoundland, she's from Fort McMurray, and although Fort McMurray is Newfoundland West, it's still not Newfoundland, right? So her life experience and his life experience completely different. Sir, where were you from?
Mumbai, India.
Mumbai, India, formerly Bombay. So Mumbai, India, which I used to live there as an infant on a houseboat. Is that crazy or what? Absolutely true. True story. So his life experience, Fort McMurray, Newfoundland, would you agree with me, totally different? Trust all of a sudden became more difficult. Why? Different worldviews, different life experiences, different backgrounds, talents, and interests. Now all of a sudden, it's not as easy for me to build trust because I don't know where to start. Because seemingly, me, the chubby brown man, the girl from Fort McMurray, seemingly we don't have a lot in common. So trust now is a learned skill, trust building. Are there some things that never change? Absolutely. Listen to people and so on and so forth. We'll go into it in just a second. But I want you to see why it's not so simple anymore. It's not so easy anymore. It's not so automatic. And then, how many of you agree with me in society in general, people are less trusting than they've ever been in your lifetime? Raise your hand if you agree with that. People are just generally less trusting. So all of that now makes it difficult for Helen and I to connect. So let's talk about how I build trust. Step number one. Step number one. So you should be on this page that says, trust comes from, get ready to take some notes. For you to build trust with these people, so here you are right here, and you've got all these people that work with you. All these people that work with you. The number one way to build trust with them is be good at what you do. Vocationally competent. Be good at what you do. Everyone doesn't have to like you. Everyone doesn't have to want to hang around with you. Everyone doesn't have to invite you to their holiday party or their barbecue in the summer. But if you're good at your job, people will trust you. How many of you know somebody in your workplace that you have no desire to do anything with them outside of work, but when there's work to be done, you want to be on their team? Does anybody know somebody like that? In other words, you're not necessarily buddies with them, but you know they know how to work. And they know their job like the back of their hand. Does somebody know someone like that? Okay. Trust. Vocationally competent. What do I mean by vocationally competent? What does that mean? Good at your job. And not just good at your job, good at the job. So you know your job and you know the jobs around you. You don't flippantly throw that in people's faces necessarily, but you are equipped to do the task. If you don't know your job, what should you do? If you don't know your job, don't try to fool people, because that's the quickest way to violate trust. So here's an example. I get all of a sudden put in a new work group. My natural tendency is to fake it till I make it. But I would strongly encourage you, if you don't know the job, say, I don't really know this job, but I need all of you to help me and give me some insight on how to do it. People will tolerate that for a period of time. However, after a period of time, if you are still continuing to say, I don't know my job, people will not tolerate that any longer. How many of you agree? So it's okay to admit, I don't know my job, but it's not okay to be that way 2 years from now. Here's another thought. There's going to be a lot of times in your professional career where people know more than you. People are better at whatever you're doing than you. But if you want to be a person of influence, you'll acknowledge that that's okay. But you'll bring some value to the group. So it's okay if these 6 people are better at the task than I am, but I better bring something of value to the group. Is it that I'm a great listener? Is it that I'm just a great worker? Is it that I have relationships in another department and I can get things done for the group? What is it of value that I bring to the group? If I want to be a person of influence, I don't have to be the best at the task, but I better bring something to the party that the group looks at and goes, well, you know what, he might not be the best at that, but I'm going to tell you, he is great at fill in the blank. So all of a sudden now, I don't have to be the greatest plow driver there's ever been. I don't have to be the greatest receptionist there has ever been. I just got to be great at something that is of value to the rest of the group. Give me some examples of what that could be. What could that be? What could some of the things that I could bring of value to the group that would help them realize that I can be trusted? Okay, maybe I bring background and experience. I've been around for a long time. I know why things were set up the way they are. I know how to make that phone call. I know how that piece of paper routes from here to there. I have intellectual capacity of the history of the organization that can be of value to make jobs easier. Somebody else. Yes? What's that?
The gift of gab.
Okay. I always have a positive comment. I'm always lifting people up. I'm always making a joke. I'm always trying to brighten somebody's day. How many of you agree with me? That's of value. Okay, somebody else. What value could I bring to the group?
Technical skills.
Okay, I could bring a technical skill that maybe is unique and different. Maybe if I'm an admin, I'm a wizard at Microsoft Excel. And people see I'm the go-to person when it comes to creating a spreadsheet. All right? I might not be great at everything else, but that I can do. What do you think my point is here? What's my point in proactively identifying the value that you bring? Why would I make that point? Come on. Why would I make that point? So that you can exert influence. How many of you are not, well, don't raise your hand on this. How many of you are not completely satisfied with the direction of your workplace currently? Don't raise your hand. No, listen. Listen. Okay, so you can do one of two things. You can be a victim that whines and complains that things don't get better, or you can start to be a person of influence. Now, I'm not saying that you can fix it. Let's be clear. I'm not Pollyannish. I'm not so naive to think. But I know for me, I would much rather be doing what I could to influence the situation than sitting back and complaining and whining that the world will not bend to my will. So the only way you're going to make the situation better is to try to gain influence with your boss and with the people around you. And the first step in doing that is just making sure you're bringing value and that other people perceive it to be value. Vocational competency. All right. If I'm going to be a person of influence that affects positive change, I've got to be an open communicator. I've got to be good at communicating. In the past, if we all grew up in Fort McMurray, we all went to the same schools, we could all talk about the same places that we hung out, we had memories together, communication would be simple. But as soon as I get someone from another place, someone from another place, someone from another background, town, experience, and interest, that communication becomes more difficult. We don't have the same frames of reference. So it's in your best interest to understand communication. Not today and not during this 3 weeks. But in the coming weeks, we will have some, I'm going to move this over so these guys over here can see. In the coming weeks, in the coming weeks, we'll unpack a process for communication. But for now, I just want you to start to think about the different communication styles that people utilize. In this room, there's probably only 4 communication styles. Now, there's different words that we use, different dialects and all that. But style, it usually boils down to about 4. So the first thing when I write these down and go through them is I want you to ask yourself, which style am I? And then I want you to start asking yourself, which style is my boss? Why, which style is my boss? Why is it important for you to know the style of communication your boss utilizes?
So you can communicate effectively with them.
So that you can build that trusting relationship with them by adjusting your communication style to meet theirs. How many of you have some people of influence in your workplace that are not your boss or don't have a title? Raise your hand if you have a person of influence. Wouldn't it be in your best interest to know their communication style and be able to bend to theirs? The idea here is that if I can understand Kelly's communication style, adjust mine to meet hers, I've got a greater likelihood of influencing her. Yes or no? Okay. So what are they? Number 1, fact. So some of you communicate and you like to communicate as a fact-based communicator. You like numbers, you like sequence, you like to have it laid out in order. When people just start talking to you all over the place, it's frustrating, you don't get it, you don't like it. How many of you know somebody like that? Okay. Fact-based communicator. Just the facts, ma'am. Number 2, emotion-based communicator. Some of you in this room, you communicate through how you feel right now. And then 5 minutes later, you'll communicate with how you feel right then. And then 10 minutes later, you'll communicate with how you feel right then. How many of you are married to this person? Let me just say on film, Gina, that's you. Right? So, emotion-based communicator. Can you already see a potential train wreck here? Can you see the fact-based communicator? Okay, that's great, but lay it out for me. Oh, lay it out for you. It's how I feel. Well, how was the meeting? Oh, it was a wonderful meeting. The feeling in the room was great. And, we all had a great energy. And the energy was awesome. That's wonderful, but what did you actually talk about? I don't really know. I just know it felt wonderful. Have you ever sat in that conversation? As a party you're watching it all roll out. And then we wonder why. Listen to this. Most experts say that the cause of poor performance, 80% management, but the 85% management, but you know why? Poor communication. Poor communication. The root of most performance issues usually boils down to communication. If I can be effective at communicating, adjusting my style to meet Kelly's, understanding her style, and then coming at her with her style, not mine, I'm more likely to connect. If I'm more likely to connect, I can influence. All of a sudden, you, frontline person, no authority, whatever, can start influencing the dynamic just because you're a more effective communicator. Okay? 3, values-based communicator. Now, not religion, not morals. Every one of you in this room has a unique set of values that you live life by. A very unique set of values. Even the mafia has a unique set of values that they operate by. If I understand the values that you operate by and communicate through those, I probably have a better likelihood of connecting with you, thereby being able to influence. Final. The belief-based communicator. This is the person, usually men, that you can show them all of the facts. You can list everything out. And they will look at you and go like this, yep, that's pretty great. But let me tell you what I believe. Do you know? Are you married to that person? It doesn't matter what you say. They believe what they believe. Period. Okay. First question is, which one are you? Now, you might be, in different circumstances, in different situations in your life, you might be one or two of these. But most of us probably lean towards one or another. It's our preferred communication approach. So the first step for you over the next couple of days is start to think about this. Start to say to yourself, which one am I? What kind of a communicator am I? Fact-based, value-based, emotion-based, belief-based? And then start to say this. The people who I deal with and have the most impact in my life, my spouse, my kids, my boss, people of influence in my work group, how do they communicate? And are they like me? Are they not like me? Am I frustrated when I talk to them? Am I not frustrated? Because that's the first step in you trying to find some common ground in being an effective communicator. You want to be this person of influence? You want to influence the dynamic? These conduits of communication, if they're muddled, you're going to have a tough time. If they're clean conduits of communication, clean channels of communication, more likely to influence the dynamic. How many would say that makes sense? Okay, this is the first step. Now I'm going to give you 2 exercises over the next couple days. 2 exercises, one intangible, one tangible. The intangible exercise. For the next 7 days, between now and next Tuesday, I'm going to ask you to do the following. I'm going to ask you to listen to people. Oh, that's no big deal. Would you agree with me, people in today's day and age are pretty poor listeners? Pretty poor listeners. So I'm going to ask you to listen like people are going to die at midnight. I don't understand. If I knew that Leanne was leaving the earth, God forbid, at midnight tonight, I wouldn't worry about my phone buzzing on my hip when she's talking to me. I wouldn't worry about what I got to do with minor hockey on the weekend. I wouldn't worry about anything. Because if I knew she was leaving us at midnight, that we were at the end of her day, and the end of her life, I would completely and totally focus yes or no. I would. In addition, there's nothing more validating to a human being than if they feel that they've been understood. I will have the beginnings of tremendous influence with Leanne if she says in her mind, you know what? I think Ian really understands me. Would you agree with this? If Leanne looks at me and says, I think Ian really understands me, that means I've come to a place of trust. The key to that is me listening to her. So for the next 7 days, and this will not be easy, trust me, I want you to completely focus on whoever's talking to you at any given time. I want you to give them their full heart, their full soul, everything you have, I want you to give it to them by intently listening on what they're saying. Now here's where you got to start. When you start tonight, I want you to start at home. So the first place you're going to do this exercise is in your house, with your kid, or with your spouse. So no more, listen now, dead serious, no more staring off in the distance. You need to listen to your spouse for 7 days. Listen. You need to listen to your kid. Personal story, I don't think I've related before. This just happened a few weeks ago. My little girl is 9. Her name is Nadia. I have Nia 10, Nadia 9, Kian 6, and then 22-year-old Cassie. I've gotten really, really good at Nadia or any of them walking in my office at home. I'm doing something. They start to tell me a story from their day. I've gotten very, very good at doing this. Oh, yeah, that's great. Well done. You're the best. You're awesome. Good job. And inserting those comments at the appropriate time, while not listening to a word they're saying, but still continuing to work on what I'm working on. Can any of you relate to what I'm saying right now? Well, here's what happened with little Nadia the other day. Little Nadia came in. She came in to tell me about a story that she had written at school. A story about her dad and how important her dad was in her life. Now, you would think her rock-headed father would pay attention. How many would think? But obviously, the thing that I was doing was more important than that. So I continued to do it and insert at the appropriate time, as I had done in the past, yes, great, awesome, you're the best, you're awesome, you're the best, love you so much, da 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 da. About halfway through her story, she did this. And she walked out. I was typing and looked up and noticed that Nadia wasn't there. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. Nadia found my game. She found out what was going on. I jumped up and I ran down the hallway. And I yelled out, Nadia! Nadia! Nadi, come here! And Nadia took 3 more steps back up the steps and looked down the hallway at me. And I said, where are you going? She goes, you weren't listening. And I said, oh, honey, I'm sorry. She goes, I was telling you a story about how much I admire you, and you didn't listen. And she started back down the stairs. And in those indefinable split seconds, I had this vision. And it was a vision of Nadia at 18 years of age, every part of her body pierced, tattoos all over her, with throwing plates at me in the kitchen screaming, where were you? Where were you? You never listened to me. So I ran down to the bottom of the steps and I said this, I'm really, really sorry. Let's get ice cream. And how many of you dads can relate to what I'm talking about right now? You know, that's the answer for everything. Let's get ice cream. And then, as we were going to get ice cream, I thought to myself, this is why. This is why kids go seek out someone else that they think they can trust for validation, for strength, for encouragement, because there comes a point in time where they realize their parents are no longer listening. I'm no psychologist, but how many on the surface would agree with what I'm saying? Okay, so where are you going to start this exercise is with your family. You're going to listen. It will not be easy. Then in your workplace, you're going to listen. Listen to your fellow employees. Listen to your boss. Really, really listen. There is nothing more powerful than a human being feeling understood. When a human being feels understood, they trust. So turn it off. It's not brain surgery. It's a little red button that says off. Yeah. So, fact-based communicator. The intangible exercise is this. The intangible exercise is I'm going to listen. The tangible exercise that you're going to do in the coming days is I'd like you to send out a survey. And whether you work in an outside crew or where you work in admin, I'd like you to send out a survey. I'd like that survey to have 3 questions. What am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? Suggestions for my improvement. And if you could send me back to school, what class would you make me take? Now, those questions are right in the middle of your handout. Right in the middle of your handout. Yes, they are. Right in the middle of your handout. Listen now, please. I'd like you to send out this survey. Just type it up on a Microsoft Word or write it out by hand and copy it, whatever. And ask people to submit it back to you anonymously. Don't make them put their name on it. And whether they slip it under your desk or put it in your box or put it in your cubby or whatever it is you have, I want you to take the time to formally listen to people. So informal, I'll focus. I'll give you my full attention. Formal, I'll actually ask your opinion of my performance. You may choose to do this within your friends. You may choose to do this within your workers. You may choose to do this wherever you choose to do this. Why am I asking you to do this? What's the point of doing this? What's that?
See others' perception of how you are.
See others' perception of your performance. Somebody else. Why am I asking you to do this?
Help you gain trust.
Helps you gain trust. He fills out the form. I read it. Says I do some things well. Says some things I need to improve on. If over the next 4 months he sees me actually working on the thing that he indicated I need work on, would you agree that he's going to trust me more, yes or no? Or at minimum, it's going to open the door for it. I think listening is a proactive exercise. I don't think it's reactive. So I'm going to take the time to reach out and say, give me some feedback. Would you also agree with me it'll take a lot of strength to send out that survey, yes or no? Because how many of you know you're going to get some crappy responses? How many of you know you're going to get this? What are you drinking, the RMWB Kool-Aid? What are you doing? Are you kidding me? What's this survey all about? Oh, you're into leadership boot camp. Well, I don't know. I just know this. If you want to be better, you'd ask the people around you to give you some feedback on your performance. Your bosses, your peers. Here's the other thing. If you have supervisors that are in the morning session and you don't get a handout, what do you know? You know that they're chicken, you know what? You know that they're not following through on what they've been asked. Could you influence the dynamic by handing them one? Hey, I don't know if you'll be handing them out, but I am. No, don't say that. Or at minimum, just hand it out and say, hey, I'd like your feedback. I'd like your feedback. Now, here's what's going to happen. You're going to hand out 5, 2 will come back. Or you're going to hand out 10, 5 will come back. Not today, but in the coaching session, I'll explain what to do with the information. Because it's really important what to do with it. In other words, you can't react to one comment. Right? You can't. Because it's about looking for trends and some other things. But the point of the exercise is what he said. Proactively engage people, get their feedback, build trust by taking their feedback and doing something with it. In addition, the next time we get together, like I said earlier, I'm going to ask you to get better at something. Wouldn't it be in our best interest to ask people around us maybe for some feedback before we pick something out? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to ask people for feedback, and then we'll pick out the one thing we're going to work on. Now, this is more directed to the men in the room. Because men, no offense, because I'm one of them, are kind of rock-headed. This is not the kind of exercise men gravitate to easily. Right? How many of you ladies know what I'm talking about? How many of you know men that don't take good feedback? Right? Yeah. So, to the men in the room, I strongly encourage you, overcome that little attitudinal barrier that says this, oh, everybody's going to think I'm a clown and no one's going to take it serious, and you never know. You never know how are people going to take it. You just send it out. And it's like Helen said, hey, I made the move. If someone doesn't respond, that's on them. But at least you've taken the step to gain the feedback. So, you send it out anonymously. You don't ask people to put their name on it. You give them a time frame. I need this back by blank day. When you've gotten it back, in the coaching session, I'll explain it to you. So 2 exercises. Exercise number 1, listen to like people are going to die at midnight. Exercise number 2, more tangible, send out that survey. We'll explain it in the coaching session. How do I build trust? I know where I'm going. What do you mean? You are more likely to trust somebody that has a direction in their life. You're not going to trust somebody that just seems to be aimlessly going like this through life. Oh, you might like them. You might, be a friend with them on Facebook. You might go to Earl's or to whatever, bar or whatever, the new brewery. You might go there with them, but you're not going to trust them with anything of significance. You trust people that have a direction or seem to be going somewhere with their life. I haven't asked you to turn it in, but last time we were together, I did ask you 5 questions. How many remember those? Life's 5 most urgent questions. You want to be a person of influence? Then you have those kind of questions in your head. You're going somewhere with your life. Outcomes. When we talk about planning, we'll talk more about that. What's an emotional IQ? We've heard that term, but what's an emotional IQ? What's an emotional IQ? So we have intelligence quotient, IQ, but what's an emotional IQ?
Tendency to respond emotionally.
Empathy, what?
Tendency to respond emotionally all the time.
Okay, tendency to respond emotionally, sort of.
Being sensitive to how other people are feeling.
Being sensitive to how other people are feeling, again, close. I'll just take it one step further. Being able to control one's emotions. Being able to control one's emotions. Do any of you know somebody, or are you the kind of person that gets hot under the collar? Raise your hand. If you get hot. I get hot. I get fired up. All this zeal that you see sometimes can be channeled in certain ways that isn't always positive. I have sometimes a very low emotional IQ. I do not have the ability to control what I say and what I do sometimes. I haven't strengthened that emotional IQ muscle. So when certain things occur around me, I react in ways that I have to clean that mess up later. I have to go back and repair a fractured relationship or repair a fractured nose. No, not a fractured nose. It used to be a fractured nose, but not anymore. If you're one of those kind of people, a high emotional IQ is pretty simple. It's just this. When I feel that I'm getting in a place where what I say or do I don't have control over, a high emotional IQ has the ability to disengage that clutch, to put it in idle for a second, and say to themselves, what's the best thing for me to say or do right now to help move things forward? Follow me. See all of these people that are in your constellation, all these people that revolve around your life, those 20 people. You go around saying and doing things that you have to go back and apologize for. In today's day and age, people don't tolerate that anymore. There used to be a time when we all had to live with each other. Anybody from a territory anywhere? Yukon, Nineveh, anybody from a territory? Okay. I was flying back from the Northwest Territories, and I was with a guy who lived out. I mean, like, really lived out in a little settlement. And I said, what's it like to live there? Oh, it's amazing. And I was like, amazing? Like, you live off the land. Like, that was his job, was to teach kids how to live off the land, how to dress a moose. He's like, do you want to see pictures? I was like, nah, I'm good, brother. I don't need to see the pictures of dressing the moose today. I said, what do you mean it's awesome? He goes, everybody gets along. I go, there's no way everybody gets along. He goes, oh, yeah. We get delivery of food every 6 months. He said, so you have a tendency not to piss people off. Because if in the, 5th month and 27th day, you ain't got something, you better not have burned every bridge in town. Isn't it funny, as we got more civilized, we were okay with making people upset because we could get what we needed from somewhere else. Does that make sense? So in today's day and age, we think it's okay to blow up. We think it's okay to say this, well, you're just going to have to take me as I am. Just as is. You're just going to have to take me as I am. But if you live in the environments that I just described, people are more cautious with what they say because I need you. In today's day and age, we don't think we need people. So the high emotional IQ is when I feel like I'm getting out of control, when I feel like I'm going beyond, I can disengage the clutch, put it in idle, and say to myself, what is the best thing for me to say or do right now? You will be influenced by someone that has that kind of self-control. You will not tolerate someone who doesn't. For you want to be a person of influence, work on that. In the next 3 weeks, one of the days, I'll send you a survey, a little self-survey that you can take with some tips of how you might increase your emotional IQ, strengthening that muscle. Finally, if you want to be trustworthy, then you have to be relatable. In the past, as I said earlier, we were able to interact with people that had our exact same perspective. Their parents and my parents and my grandparents all grew up together. We all had the same kind of perspective. But as time has gone along in North America and in all parts of the world, all of a sudden I'm interacting with people who don't have the same frame of reference as me. So I have to find a way to be relatable. I call it 5 questions. I can usually find a place to connect with another human being in 5 questions. How old are you?
41.
You think that's true? I don't know. So you're 41, I'm 47. Okay, we're kind of the same era. Where did you grow up? Corner Brook, Newfoundland. I've been to Corner Brook, Newfoundland. I liked Corner Brook. I've been all over Newfoundland. Got all kinds of stuff going on in Newfoundland. We've given a lot of playgrounds away in Newfoundland. So it took me 2 questions to find a place that we could connect. I could talk about going to Corner Brook. I could talk about the experience I had there. 2 places. Even though I grew up down in the States, he grew up in Newfoundland, completely different backgrounds. I was smuggled out of a Middle Eastern country, purchased on the black market. I bet he didn't grow up like that. So seemingly 2 different worldviews. Took me 2 questions. Do you have kids, Leanne?
Yes.
How old?
30 and 27.
30 and 27. I have a 22-year-old. I bet you Leanne could give me some good insight into what I can expect in the coming years. All of a sudden, we have a connection. My point is, the ability to relate to another human being, even though seemingly on the surface there's no connection. How do I do that, Ian? Open-ended questions. All I have to do is ask a human being some open-ended questions, listen like they're going to die at midnight, and I'll find a place to connect. If I want to influence people today, I better be relatable. Relatable. Jennifer Aniston, who is she? She was on the TV show Friends, and she's an actress, right? Would you say that she's an Academy Award winning level actress? Probably not, right? But why does she make a ton of money making movies? Because she's totally relatable. Totally relatable and pretty likable, right? You look at her and you'd be like, oh, she'd be nice to have a drink with or just talk to or hang out or whatever. She seems very relatable and likable. If you want to be a person of influence, relatable and likable. Well, Ian, and excuse my language on this, do you mean like being a kiss ass? No, I don't mean that, because people don't respect that. People don't respect that. But people do respect someone that's genuinely interested in their life. Genuinely interested in those children, those young people. Young adults, I guess. Genuinely interested in somebody's background. Now, as this nice young lady, what's your name, young lady?
Andrea.
As Andrea is quick to point out to us, there's work to be done. So I can't spend my whole time having these chats, can I? No, but I can do this. Andrea, how long have you been in Fort McMurray?
2.5 years.
2.5 years. And where are you from?
BC.
What part?
Everywhere.
What was the last place you came from?
Korea.
Obviously not making the role playing easier. Andrea has said, let's screw with the speaker. Here's a funny thing. My wife lived in Korea for a year. She was a dancer at one of the resorts in Korea. She loved Korea. Did you enjoy it?
I didn't. I actually left in the middle of the night.
Oh, really? You escaped from Korea? You and Kim Jong-il or whatever his name is? You fled Korea?
I didn't leave.
Really?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, that must have been very hard.
But I mean, there were good and bad things.
Yeah.
I loved it and I hated it. All the time.
What did you love about it?
I was teaching kindergarten. I had 13 little 5-year-olds in the room. I loved
Oh,
that.
wow.
It was awesome. But I hated the way that people manage people in Korea. They are very racist and they are very misogynist.
Rigid might be a word.
Sure, well, okay.
Yeah. At least that's what my wife said. She didn't use the words you used. She just said it was very rigid society.
Because she was Indian.
Yeah, very rigid culture. Not a lot of openness to outside things necessarily.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
a good experience.
Yeah.
You only know your own culture when you're put up against something else.
Yeah, exactly. So, 3 questions, we had a connection. 3 questions. And a connection that she was just happy to do what? Openly share. Now, either she's a really good role player or I'm really good at being authentic. I don't know. Write that word down, last thought, and then we have an exercise to do before we leave. Authenticity. There's a lot of talk today about being authentic. Oh, you got to be authentic. They're actually having training classes on how to be authentic. I know, it doesn't sound very authentic. I have a buddy that just held a big, huge seminar in Toronto for business people on being authentic. And I was like, Dan, are you crazy? Oh, he's like, 300 people showed up. I go, that's a sad state of society when we got 300 people showing up to learn how to be authentic. Wow. Okay, here's your answer. For all of the tapes and the books and the videos out there trying to teach you to be authentic, here it is. Boiled down, very simplicity. Do not send Anthony Robbins $1,500 in 3 easy payments. Don't do that. Because here's the answer right here. Authenticity is simply this. Here's what I say I am, and then I consistently and regularly do that. Here's what I say I am, and I consistently and authentically do that. Why do people go and pay way more money than they should to Disney World or Disneyland? Why? What's that? Fantasy, but how many of you agree with me it's authentic? It's the best place on earth. Would you agree with me it's authentic? They tell you what you're going to get, and you get it. Have any of you been to Canada's Wonderland? Is it as authentic as Disney? Yes or no? No, because there's a gap between what they say you're going to get and what you get. Disney walks it out to the nth degree, right? All their cast members enter and exit through secret places. You don't see where the employee's entrance is because it's all fantasy land. And they walk that out to the nth degree. From the colors to the littlest detail, everything has a story. It's authentic. Have you ever gone to a great restaurant that's the same way? Great restaurant that's the same way. So we can learn from that. Authenticity is just this. Here's what I say I am, and then I consistently and regularly give you that. Here's an example. If one of you came up to me and said, "Hey Ian, I really like the class. Can I buy a tape from you?" And if I said, "Oh yeah, here's a whole list of tapes you can buy," you then say to yourself, "Well, wait a minute. I thought he was doing this because he wanted to in the depth of his heart, but now I come to find out he's doing this to sell tapes." How many would agree with me that would be less authentic? But if I looked at you and said this, "Oh yeah, you can get a tape. Here's the way to do it, Leanne. If you go out and volunteer for 10 hours in the community, write me an email about the experience. I'll send you any book or tape you want." Would that be more in alignment with what you've heard me say the 2 times we've been together? Yes or no? That's called authentic. So my actions and your actions have to be in alignment with what we claim to be. As soon as we find that, we're drawn to that in today's day and age because so many people are inauthentic. They're not authentic. So as soon as we see that, we get drawn to it. So whatever you say you are in the workplace, just make sure you consistently and regularly do that. And if you're vocationally competent, and if you're relatable and likable, and if you can communicate and adjust your style to meet someone else's, the next thing you know, you'll start building these trusting relationships with people. And you'll start influencing that dynamic just like that negative person. And if we all do it in the room, the next thing you know, you can start to create shift. You can start to create change. And you don't even have to have a title. That's not possible. Turn on the news. And look all over the world how people with no titles and know this and know that are affecting positive change. Have any of you seen what I'm talking about? Yeah, because it's happening all over. So it's not brain surgery. It's pretty simple. It's just understanding the human dynamic. All right. We're going to end today with an exercise that's going to help you with this. So we looked back to move forward. We looked back to move forward. And now we're going to do an exercise. So everybody grab this piece of paper out. This one right here. That second handout. That second handout. You fellas at the end, you have this. I gave this to you. Second handout. But you don't have this? Okay, I'll give you mine in just a second. So here's what we're going to do for the next 18 minutes or so. It won't take that long. We look back to move forward. Then today I gave you some communication style. Right? I gave you communication style. And some breakdown of that. And now we're going to look at your current leadership style. What's your way today? This exercise is like a lot of exercises. Maybe some of you have taken a colors exercise. We found out what color you were. I'm mauve. I'm not mauve. Or whatever. She got it. She understood. I'm mauve. That's a little inside joke with me. Anyways, I'm mauve. Or animal. How many of you ever taken the survey and they tell you the kind of animal you are? You're a shark. You're a monkey. How come there's never the muskrat? You're a muskrat. Honey badger. What's that? Honey badger. Yeah, honey badger. You're a honey badger. That's right. Listen now. This is kind of like that, except it's really fast. It's really fast. You can do this really, really quick. But the point of any of these exercises is to do one thing. Help me to understand you. Not just understand me. So I'm going to read this really, really quick. But every word on this page was specifically chosen. So utilize, please, your listening skills and focus on what I'm saying to catch its meaning. If leadership is the art of giving direction and focus to the energy and talent of others in order to accomplish a specific task, then each and every one of us is a leader. So leadership is just getting these people and their talent moving that way. And whether I do it through influence or a title, it doesn't matter. I'm leading them if I can get them all to go that way. Being able to build a dynamic team, a group of individuals capable of pulling smoothly in the same direction, as especially important for community leaders, business leaders, workplace leaders. As such, it requires an understanding of people, their differences, and that differences are essential. But here's the challenge. You always hear that. Hey, we want as many different people because difference is great. It's all about difference. And let's celebrate diversity and woo! Frankly, I'm not for diversity. How can you say that you're brown? Well, I just think it doesn't make any sense. Shouldn't we focus on commonality? In other words, if I just focus on what he and I have in different, if you take that out to its logical end, the only conclusion we're going to come to is that we are different. Instead, I say this, let's focus on commonality, let's build off what we have in common, and then later we'll appreciate our differences. Right? So I'm not for difference, I'm for common, and then we'll appreciate the difference down the road. So the challenge of differences is it can create conflict. The challenge of difference is it creates misunderstanding. The challenge of difference is that it can create problems. The advantage of difference is when I can get a lot of different people with a lot of different backgrounds, talents, experience, and interests together, pulling together, I get a lot stronger team. Because if all of us thought exactly the same, how many would agree with me? That would be a deficient team because we would only have one perspective. So difference is important, but it takes some additional work to make it work and get people in alignment. So this exercise is an attempt for us to better understand differences, different work styles. So I gave you different communication style. Now I'm going to give you different work style. We're going to do the exercise right now. I'm going to strongly encourage you to do this exercise with other groups. You could do it with your family. You could do it with your church, your mosque, your synagogue, whatever. You could do it on your minor hockey league that you're a part of, or the curling club, or whatever group you're a part of. How I'm going to allow you to do that is I will post the video of this on the learning portal in the next couple days, along with the handout, along with some tips of how to do it with a group. So if you're a part of a group, not within this RMWB, but outside, and you think this would be a worthy exercise to do with them, all of the tools for you to do so will be on the learning portal. Make sense? That's an attempt to help you be an effective leader out in the community. All right, now let's us take the exercise. So turn the page. You now see columns just like this, and I'm going to give it to you in just a second. You now see columns just like this with a whole bunch of words. Here's how we're going to do it. You're going to read a word. If that word is you, check it. If that word is not you, move on. Look at the word. If it's you, check it. If it's not you, move on. Don't think a lot about it. Just gut reaction. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. When you get to the bottom of the column, add up all the check marks and put the total. Don't do it and then come back and add them up. It'll be confusing. So, all of the check mark, all of the words, check them if they're you. Don't check them if they're not. Write a total at the bottom. There's 2 pages of that. There's 8 total columns. Make sure you do all 8 columns. Any questions? Once you've done that portion, look up at me. I'll know you're done. Ready, set? Yes? You guys are awesome. Ready, set? Go. Look at the word. Read the word. If you're watching in the archive right now, you can stop the video and then you can fast forward a little bit. But we're going to just keep it running. But you could stop if you wanted. Okay. So if you're done, just relax and wait for everybody else. So, ambitious, articulate, or I can't even remember all the words. But going through, checking it off. Yes, I am. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. No, I'm not. Make sure you total them out at the bottom so that we don't have to come back to it. So if you're one of the words, check it off. If you're not one of the words, move on. You don't need to talk to other people. Just do it. Keep going. Go through. I'm looking for my copy right now. Gave all my copies away. Okay, no worries. Quick. Come on, we don't have a lot of time. We've only got 12 minutes left. So we're going to get through this exercise. So go through each column, total them out when you get to the bottom. Total them out when you get to the bottom. If the word resonates with you, if you are that thing, or you are that word, check it. If you're not, move on. If you have to really think about it, it means you're probably not. Because it wasn't just a gut reaction. No fudging, no cheating. Don't look at your fellow co-workers. Thing. We're almost done. So Shane, are you going to go?
I'd like to. It's not looking good right now, but
You just got to, you know what? You just got to get connected to the group that's doing all the fundraising. You know, they raised almost 10 grand the other night.
that was at Patty's, right?
Yeah. And they got another one coming up in May, and they got fundraisers coming up all along. And they're really trying to work hard to raise a big pool of money so that anybody that wants to go can go. So you just got to get connected with that group. Do you know Lana?
No, Jana.
Oh, Jana, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Jana can keep you connected. Yep.
Write a letter and send it to Cupid. Everybody else asks for money.
And you know what? And you know, that's an excellent point, Alice. That's an excellent point. You know, it is, of the 30 people that are going, the majority are RMWB employees. And, you know, it is a very meaningful activity. We now have a dentist going, so there's going to be a dental clinic set up during the 2 weeks. And there's some really cool stuff that's starting to really rock and roll out of the thing. So, yeah. Yeah, it has. It has. Okay, quick. Okay, as soon as you're done, look up, count up, total them up. So put the total right down at the bottom. And then the total and the total and the total. Make sure you do all 8 columns. Somebody who's done. Let me borrow yours. Okay. Okay, if you're done with the columns, raise your hand if you're done with the columns. Okay, a few of you. All right, we'll wait just a second. We'll give everybody else a second. Give everybody a second. If you're done with the columns, you want to start bringing the total of the columns over to this top table. You'll notice that it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, but then it reverses order and goes 5, 6, 7, 8. So you take the total from column 1 in this top box on the table. Total from column 2, total from column 3, total from column 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. To give you a total at the bottom of the table. The total of combined 7 and 8, the total of combined 2 and 7, 3 and 6, 4 and 5. Okay, once you've totaled up, you should have 4 numbers here. You should have 4 numbers at the bottom. You then bring those numbers to the corresponding column rows here. So the total of column A goes here. Total of column B goes here. Total of column C goes here. Total of column D. Okay? Let me hand that back to you. Now follow me. On that bottom table, you have A, B, C, and D. And you have corresponding words, right? And then over here you have 2 boxes. Everybody see that? So let's say you're 21, 19, 12, and 7. 21 is your dominant, so your highest score is your dominant. Write the word nurturer, energizer, researcher. Write the word up here of your number 1. Write the word up here of your number 2. So your top 2 scores, write the word in the upper box. Your bottom 2, write the word in the recessive style. So nurture, energizer, whatever. So your top 2 go in the dominant style, and your bottom 2 go in the recessive style. It's a tie, it's all good. Now there's only been one person that all 4 were totally tied. When I administered this to Gandhi, no, I'm just kidding, that's not true. That's not true. Gandhi didn't. When Mother Teresa took no, that's not true. So the top 2. So these 2 would go in there, researcher, organizer. Because 27, 28, right? 27, 28, and then the others would go below. Good job, good job, good job, good job, good, 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 good.
So what are you saying again?
Okay, so let's look at it real quick. So, did you do these columns?
Oh no, I only just...
You're killing me, dude. Okay, no worries. You go for it. Keep going. Keep going. Okay, in interest of time, we only got 5 minutes left. Come on, hang with me. In interest of time, let's talk about what it means. Interest of time, let's talk about what it could mean. Now remember, the point of the exercise is not just so you go like this, oh, I'm a such and such. Isn't that wonderful? The point of the exercise is to help you, this person here, be able to expand your sphere of influence to build by building trusting relationships. If I understand Kelly and her communication style, if I understand her work style and can adjust mine to meet hers, I'm more likely to help influence or to influence. That's why I encourage you to go back and do this with others. The bosses, supervisors that are in the program in the morning, they will not get this exercise yet. They don't get this exercise for a week. So if you wonder why they're not doing it, it's because they don't get it for a week. So the idea here is if they do it and you do it, you should better understand each other. So in a week, don't be afraid to say to somebody, hey, what did you end up being? If you know they're in the other program. Hey, are you an energizer, you researcher, whatever. Also, don't forget, I'll post this on the website so you can do it with other groups that you're a part of. Let's talk about it, what it could mean in interest of time. Raise your hand if one of your dominant styles was energizer. Okay, some energizers. Let's talk about energizers are charismatic, buoyant, energetic, enjoy living life. They are open to new ideas. Energizers work best with clear, short-term goals, tangible outcomes, and immediate rewards. Energizers are hardy by nature, great storytellers. They're enthusiastic, youthful, honest, sincere. They're unreliable, flighty, immature, hyperactive, intolerant of authority or rules. They make excellent salespeople, teachers, actors, public speakers, and leaders. Energizers. Now, how many of you know that this isn't totally true, right? It's not the beginning and end. But would you say, those of you that said you were energizers, is that a pretty good reflection of how you like to operate? Raise your hand if you felt like it was true. Okay, felt like it was true. It's funny how in 10 minutes you can do an exercise and it's fairly accurate. Raise your hand if your dominant style was organizer. Wow, a lot of organizers in the room. Typically are dynamos. They're action-oriented, strong-willed people who always get a lot accomplished in a short period of time. They have endless ideas, plans, and ambitions. Notice that organizer doesn't necessarily mean you're organized. Doesn't mean that. Despite a well-organized mind, organizers are not given to analysis. They make inclined to quick, seemingly intuitive appraisals. They have an attentive to detail. Now look at this. They make excellent generals, executives, idea people. They're also renowned dictators and famous criminals. All of you guys are like, oh, maybe not so much. Now look at this. This is really important. Focus with me. We're almost done. Focus. Focus. Self-confident, persistent, thorough. But listen. They are rigid and a slave to rules. So you're sitting in a meeting. Let me show you the practical application. Sitting in a meeting, practical application. The energizer, come on, let's do this and let's do that and let's go here and let's go there. The organizer, slow down. Let's put some framework in place. Let's put some rules in place. Why are you always trying to rain on my parade? I just want to get things done. Well, that's great, but you're always screwing things up because you never have a framework and we never have a policy and I've got to clean up your mess. Can anybody relate to what I'm saying right now? So stop. It's funny, except that's what causes stress in the workplace right there. So that if I better understand that you're an organizer, I'm an energizer, I'll slow down. I'll realize for you to come along on the journey and feel comfortable, we're going to want to take some time to establish some rules. We're going to want to take some time to establish a framework. On the other hand, because you know that I'm not about that, I'm about vision and direction, and I want to just get things done, you're going to be okay with giving up a little bit of that control. If both move to the middle, are we more likely to be productive? Yes or no? Are we more likely to reduce stress? Yes or no? Okay, let's move on to the next one. Researcher. Researchers are conceptual, independent. They seek knowledge and understanding and like to solve problems. Researchers have exceptional analytical abilities, self-sacrificing, gifted, often perfectionists. Strengths: analytical, produce quality work; conceptual, thorough, methodical, independent. They can be dull, academic, aloof, intolerant of incompetency. They're compulsive workers, dislike unfairness, condemn injustices. Nurturers. For the nurturer, life is generally a happy, calm experience. Nurturers have a high tolerance for almost everything and seldom explode or show extremes. Nurturers may look placid, however, much of their emotion is deep, 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 and it's not what the world can see. Honesty, sincerity, trusting, helpful, open to suggestion, modest and loyal, impractical, dreamy, gullible, duty-bound, self-deprecating, fanatical. Here's the simplicity of this. None of it really matters, unless, of course, you use it to better understand you and those around you. But that in and of itself is still not enough. I've got to use it to gain alignment with another human being. And the best way to gain alignment is to adjust my style. Because if you're sitting there like this and expecting everybody else to adjust to you, how many of you know that's not going to happen? So if I really want to become this person of influence, I'll start to recognize my own approach and then recognize the approach of others, and I will begin to bend my approach. Okay, so if he's an organizer, okay, I'll give a little bit more structure because I know he'll make him feel comfortable. If she's a nurturer, okay, I'm going to make sure that she has a say. I'm going to make sure that she has an opportunity to give input. If you're an energizer, I'm not going to give you a 2-year goal. I'm going to give you a 4-month goal or a 2-month goal or a 1-month goal. All I care about is getting as many arrows going in the right direction as possible. So here's the organization. Let me do it again. Here's the organization. Right? That's the organization. I want to get as many arrows going in the right direction as possible. So do I care whose style we use? And if I can help you feel more comfortable by bending to your style when I want to, that to me is an enlightened leader, and you don't have to have a title to do that. So what's going to happen in the coming 3 weeks? The next 3 weeks, we got to unpack this. And I've got to give you some more tips and some more ideas and some more tools to help you take these concepts. Where does it begin? Tangibly and intangibly listening. Starting today, as soon as you walk out that door, you start listening to people. And practice it. No more powerful tool than being able to help a person feel understood. If this young man feels like I understand him, I have immediately built a bridge with him. And I can start to build that trusting relationship. I'm going to be competent in my task. If I'm not, I'm going to admit it, try to learn, but I'm going to bring something of value. I'm going to ensure that on a regular basis I'm asking for people's feedback. Because in today's TripAdvisor society, people like giving feedback. But more importantly than that, it's a way that I can proactively build trust. I'm not going to flip out. I'm going to have a high emotional IQ, keeping an even keel. Because I can't just go around apologizing to people and saying, well, you got to just take me as I am. That doesn't fly anymore. I'm going to be relatable. And if it takes asking 5 questions to find a place that we can connect, I'll do that. Because I understand not everybody has the same worldview as I do. Whether it's my communication style, fact-based, emotion-based, value-based, or belief-based, or my style that I like working, I'm going to be more self-aware of the impact that I have in others. And I'm going to be more aware of their style and try to bend my communication or work style to theirs. Ultimately, why am I going to do that? Because I'm not going to be a victim. I'm not going to be a robot. I realize that I have talent and I have ability and I could make a difference in somebody's life. And I could be somebody's question number 9. And not only could I be, I choose to be. That's what this is all about. And ultimately, you guys, for right or wrong, good or bad, you are in the most important entity in the community. You're in the process of building a city. Not too many people get that opportunity. You're in the process of building a society. Not too many people get that opportunity. For whatever reason, you're at a crossroads of history. Life has brought you to a place, you're at the crossroads of history. And you have a chance to build something special. And the entity that you're a part of is the hub of doing that. And all of us in the room touch every citizen from cradle to grave. He, as a laborer, isn't going to solve all the problems, but if he'll handle his little corner of the world, and she'll handle her little corner of the world, and she'll handle her little corner of the world, and you handle your little corner of the world, the cumulative effect is we have a better world. I hope you'll thoughtfully consider that as we go into the next couple weeks. As we wrap up, somebody tell me something you're taking away from today. Somebody tell me something you're taking away from today. Come on. Tell me something you're taking away from today's conversation. What's that? A leadership style. His, yours, and then hopefully you'll start to understand those around you. Somebody else, tell me something you're taking away from today. Come on.
Acknowledging others, what they've done and what you appreciate.
Taking the time to make someone else's life better by just acknowledging the impact they've had on you. Okay, somebody else. Build trust by just being good at what you do. And if you're not, that's okay. If others are better than you at it, just bring something of value. All right, somebody else, something you're taking away. Come on. Why do I ask the question, just like I asked last time? Communication. Why do I ask the question of what you picked out or what you gained from today? Forcing the learning. In other words, don't come to these learning experiences walking in the door like a robot. Oh, I have to be here, so let me just go through the motions. Don't be that. You're not a robot. You got talent. You got ability. You have something to offer. So come walking through the door expecting to gain something from me or from one of your fellow participants. So you can go out and affect people just like somebody affected you. Just like somebody gave to you. You have a moral obligation to do for the same for others. Okay, we start the second 3 weeks now. I look forward to talking to you via email. If you haven't sent in your 3 questions, please send in your 3 questions. If you got sent here and nobody gave you any information, bless you. Nobody gave you any information, let's get you set up. So come see me before you leave. Have a great afternoon.